You let me when I needed you the most. You let me when I was down in that cell, hoping for a better. And I never thought that you would leave. Girl, you so this son girl fooling me. And that you wicked, not cool as me. Girl, I'm on that shit like who would see it. When you broke that and I broke down, I guess life not could be easy. And you showed that girl and I showed out. Now I'm on one.
Welcome to the Original Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Double OG. And today with me on the podcast, we got Phil the Blurred Explorer. You can find him on Instagram at the_blurred_explorer. So, Phil, I seen you, and the reason why I'm so glad that you're here today is I started following you on Instagram because the initial attraction was that you're a black man living in South Korea as an English as a second language teacher. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what I do. That's my main gig. Yes.
That's your main gig. And you're also into gaming. You're into anime, a lot of different things, which makes your page like really interesting. You know what I'm saying? What made you say that you wanted to share your story with the world? Because you also wrote a book about your journey. You got a couple books coming out. You got another book coming on the way. And you wrote a couple books already.
Right.
So what made you say you wanted to share your story before we get into what made you go to Korea? Because a lot of that is in your book, you know, as far as, you know, why you chose to go to Korea and things like that. But what made you want to share your journey with the world?
Well, for me, it really in the beginning when I started, I did vlogging first, but what led me to, I guess, make exclusive Black travel content is mostly because now I moved to South Korea in 2010, right? No, excuse me, 2016. It's already been 7 years. Goddamn. But I guess this is more like the lack of representation. Like, say, if you look at like famous like travel YouTubers, TV shows, travel hosts, like food travel bloggers, right? On YouTube, TikTok, or whatever. Right? Most of them are, from white travelers, right? And there's some good stuff. There's some good guys I love to this day that I follow all the time, right? But when it comes to travel in general, obviously a white person's got to experience, let's say, a person of color, right? So obviously, like say certain countries, like say I'm South Korea, right, where like 98% of the population is like homogenous, like everybody looks like the same up and down, left and right, right? So, and I realized there's a niche for that because also, African Americans, we're traveling now more than ever before because I will wager around the late 2010s, that's when you start seeing more and more black travel groups, right? Which is awesome, of course, but we can still be more. And I realized, okay, everybody's got their own thing when it comes to like black travel groups, right? Some fellas do it because, you try to meet women and stuff like that. Like me, that's not my cup of tea, but it's like more like, I want to do more like say, something that's different. Like say, okay, I do more mixture of, gaming, food, anime, things that I enjoy. That other black, other no, that other that I can reach other black groups, black people based on what I'm into.
So let me ask you this. In your book, you talked about your education and how, during the last years of your education is when you decided to go into becoming an ESL teacher in Korea. But when did you actually start speaking Korean?
Actually, I still can't. Right now, that's it. Now, I'll admit, like, well, in terms of language, learning how to read Korean is pretty easy because the Korean king Sejong, like, he actually created the written language from Korean Hangul because he's trying to help his people get more literate. So, so in terms of written language, Korean is like one of the most easiest language to learn in the world to read. Now, speaking is totally different. That's what makes it more difficult because, like, because apparently in Korean and other like East Asian languages, there's certain vowels or consonant sounds that they don't have in like or alphabets. Like say we have it's like the Romantic language like English, Spanish, and German, right?
Yeah.
So it can be done, but it really takes a lot of time and commitment. So now I'm in a better spot to where okay, I'm gonna start focusing on trying to get better at learning how to study, how to speak Korean. So I'm trying to at least do at least at minimum like twice a week study sessions, self-study.
So how is it then being like, can you understand some of the words that people say or?
Oh, I can understand some of them. here or there too, but it's still still a walking process. But I also use it as part of my lesson for my own students who are learning English for the first time too. And as you know, so I'm like they see me like when they come to my classroom, they see me with the computer with the touchscreen, looking at say Korean words, right? And I hope it shows them that hey, I'm studying Korean. I understand what it's like to study a hard language.
Hmm.
So like I hope that they take the heart and they try to continue their studies in the future. Obviously, some won't, but just I hope that it shows them that hey, it's not. Yes, it's gonna be difficult, but there's nothing wrong with trying to learn a new language. It will always be difficult. It will take time and practice.
And English is one of the hardest languages, if not the hardest language to learn. How
Yes, it
is
is.
it trying to teach people that? It's got to be difficult at some points.
It can be. Now I teach elementary school students. I work at elementary school, so obviously so basically I teach. Well, see, we'll coach about like fifth and sixth grade students, but I teach them like first, second, third grade level English, I guess, in a sense. Because obviously, now for those who don't know, most Korean students they will either go to like a private education tutoring center, like called a Hagwon, if the parents can afford it. If they can't, then most of the time they get the English education at their school. And it can be difficult at times because I want to. There's some students I know who needs more help. I would love to help, but at the same time, they don't have much time. Like, 'cause once they leave my classroom, they got like other classes, they got other activities to go to right after school usually. So it's like okay, and at the same time, it's like I want them to have some type of fun childhood because if you know anything about Korean education, it's brutal, especially once they leave to once they go to middle school, it starts to get crazy.
I know absolutely nothing about Korean education. And that's
Yeah,
what brings my next question because, especially as black people, a lot of times we don't leave our hometown. I live in St. Paul,
yeah,
Minnesota. I've lived here my entire life. You know what I'm saying? I think I left to go to Disney World one time. I think I
yeah.
might have left to go. So traveling is not something that a lot of black people statistically do. You know, outside of our area, a lot of black people. I think I've seen a stat that more than 40% or 60, one of those two, 60 or 40% of black
Mhm.
people have never even been on a plane before.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's not surprising. I mean, in general, most Americans have never left a town, city, or state, heck, even the region. And like you said,
yeah.
sometimes maybe like that trip to Disneyland, but other than that, no. Most African Americans have never done that. I think, and let's be fair, besides money part, because that does play a part. I think really it's more that fear, because in America, because growing in America, we're so ingrained that everything's gonna be racist. If it's gonna be racist here, everywhere else is gonna be racist.
Right.
And so I think that's that mindset. Nowadays, you are seeing more black travelers, and I have seen my fair share of stories of people who went to say Spain or Italy. They said, "Oh, I had a racist experience over there," right? But I want people to realize when it comes to travel, everyone's going to have a different experience. Some people are going to have a great experience in Italy. Others are going to have a bad experience. It's all going to be random. So
Yeah.
I can't say that. Oh, I'm not. I hate to tell people like don't go to this country because it's racist. Like I would say, look, everyone's got a different experience. All I can say is you got to check it out for yourself.
Now let me ask you that because in your book or in the book I was reading, you talked a little bit about the racism, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you stated it's more out of curiosity than it is like in America. Racism is based out of hate,
Yeah, it's
so
out of
you know
nature.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's prejudices and
yeah.
things like that. But in Korea, it's more based out of curiosity, as far as like, wow, that's a black person. I've never seen a black person in real life. Is it more
Yeah.
like that
It's
you
more like
encounter?
not just Korea, but really in a lot of parts of Asia. And I hate to say it also depends on what passport you hold. Obviously, black if you're from, a black person that's like some UK, Canada, or USA, right? We're gonna get better treatment than somebody from Africa, unfortunately.
Mm.
Um, Now again, it's really in at least in South Korea, there's more xenophobia against all foreigners, really. Uh, so let's just keep that in mind too. And going back to what you said earlier, though, most Koreans, like I said, some people do get stared at a lot. Foreigners will get stared at. Anyone who's different gets stared at in Korea. But a lot of times, for Koreans, especially for Black people, we do get a lot of shit, especially me, because I'm 6'7", 100 dark skinned Black man, and it's really more of that curiosity. It does get annoying at times. It does get old really quick though. But at the same time, I can forgive children who lose their mind when they see a Black person, right? Because they're young, they don't know any better. But or like that 90-year-old grandma who's lived 90 years but never seen a black person in life, which does happen too, by the way. And it's not their fault. It's just not there's not a lot of black people who don't live outside of the major cities like Seoul or Busan. So most Koreans don't really interact with non-black people. Now, most Koreans, if they do interact with somebody, with a foreigner, it's usually they're learning through their English teaching, like say what I do, ESL. And most Korean kids, they never had a non-white English teacher growing up. It's not their fault.
So to not only just go visit Korea, but actually live there and be embedded in their culture, I think is a rare, it's very rare thing. You know what I'm saying? For so long, somebody from America, because you're from the United States. Where are you from in the United States?
South Carolina. Excuse me, South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay. What part of South Carolina?
I live in Blythewood near Columbia, which is like not too close to the capital, Columbia.
So yeah, especially coming from even someone from South Carolina to living in North Korea, what is the biggest culture shock that you've experienced as a whole, immersing yourself in the Korean culture?
I think it's really just going from diversity to homogenous. Going from a place where like okay, you can see like a little bit, or a place like USA, you can see like a little flavor taste rainbow of everybody, every culture, right? Where it's just like 100% all Korean all day, every day, nowhere else. And I think that can apply for other countries too. So it's not that just like Korea. It can play for like same thing like when I was in Thailand, one with Taiwan and Portugal too.
Yeah, because we're a country of immigrants, basically. Everybody's migrated over here except for the ones that they killed off. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, it's yeah, we're basically all coming from other places, except that's where they're rooted from. There's centuries of history opposed to hundreds.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now you're asking about the Korean education system earlier, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I know some people may hear like South Korea is like one of the best educated countries in the world. But on the outside, yeah, they got the stats like in terms of STEM, like science, engineering, math, and technology, which is great. But at the same time, there's a high social cost because South Korea, in case you don't know, South Korea does have like one of the highest rates of suicide in the world, and it definitely does stem from the education system because usually the parents will go into debt to send their kids to the for-profit learning centers, tutoring centers called Hagwons for both, whether it be English, science, math, STEM, whatever. And then the high schools, once you get to high school, they got to study hours to prepare for their basically what's the close to like their college entrance exams, like the CSAT called the SUNE. And it's so crazy that in many parts of the country, like traffic police will escort traffic away from the schools. They'll delay flights on the day of the exams, of the college entrance exams, and that's the beginning because depending on how high you score will determine what school you can get into, and what school you can get into will determine what jobs you can get. Because unless you get in the top three schools where everybody's trying to get into, like the premium like versions of like Harvard or Yale of Korea, you're gonna have a hard time finding a job. And on top of that, once you graduate from college, everybody's trying to compete for the same company for the same job, which you guys also study for an exam for.
For the same job?
Yeah, for jobs, like say 1,000 people trying to apply for 20 jobs at Samsung.
Mm.
Yeah, it gets competitive. Yeah, it's really competitive.
So in your book, you said something that stood out to me. You said you're not at home, and your mama told you when you go to your guest house or you're a guest in somebody else's house that you got to act like that because it's not your house, it's not your rules, it's their rules. So what's one of the biggest differences that you could say from growing up in South Carolina to now living in Seoul, Korea? What's the biggest rule change that you had to adjust to as far as from going to America to South Korea?
I think it's that what laws you can follow in one country don't apply in other places. Like say for example, if you're of course, if you're a licensed gun holder, you can't bring a gun into South Korea. That will put you in prison. Or one thing I just learned about recently, if you have a prescription medication, depending on what country you travel to, you want to double check to make sure if it's legal. Because some prescriptions, because I think I remember reading a story a couple of years ago how I think it was a European or American girl. She was traveling to Japan, and she had prescription for ADHD medication. She got arrested for that, and that can apply for Korea too. So yeah, definitely want to double check that. If you when you travel overseas, you have prescription medication. Contact your local embassy to make sure. Hey, can I bring this prescription with me? Because it's my prescription. I really need it. Because again, different countries, different rules. Some will be okay with it, others might not be. So you want to double check that.
Yeah, like my wife, LaShawn, she went to China and it's illegal to be a Christian, like publicly have church in China. So you go to church and you go to jail. So
yeah, because of the
different rules.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why they got to do church in underground.
That's why they have underground. Yeah, she went to a couple underground churches and things like that. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this though. In your book, you said something that was funny. It just made me laugh out loud. You said, "Don't hit the button across the street." Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like a social norm here in America. When you're standing at a corner and you're ready to cross the street, you see that big button on the light pole. You just smash it until the light turns red, right?
Right.
Can you tell my followers, listeners, what happens if you smash that button in Korea?
Okay, yeah, the police will be coming because in many major cities and I guess small towns too, that button you use, across the street, that's usually like an emergency call so the police or somebody will come check on you in case of an emergency. Now there are it's very very small rare locations where you will need to press that button to cross the street, but it's incredibly rare. So you won't find that button pressing in the major cities. So put that in mind because it's going to be automatic.
And now you've been all over South Korea. It ain't like you just went to one spot. You have you've written black guides for multiple cities, and now your newest work is for South Korea all over.
Yeah, the country as a whole, yes.
Yeah. So what's your favorite city that you've
lived in? So far, I would say it's definitely going to have to be in the southwest part of Korea. This place called Gwangju. I'm heading there actually back next week for more research. I'm in this right now. At the time I'm recording this, I'm in the city of Jeonju, which is actually a really nice city too as well. I enjoyed it. I also like on the East Coast called Changwon and also Daegu. Now, for those who know, so I wrote two books called The Black Travel Guide to Incheon, and Daegu, South Korea. But at the time of recording, I took them off the shelves because I'm gonna put them into the Korea travel guide. But so you can't really buy it anymore, and that's my choice because I'm also going to add locations that I didn't put in the original books because of time constraints at the time.
Is anime as big in Korea or bigger, do you think? Because you said there's just pop-up PC gaming shops everywhere in Korea, which there's not any at all in Minnesota. I've never seen a PC gaming store.
Yeah, so that's basically the PC bond, the PC cafes. Like you said, you'll basically go there, you put X amount of money, like say $1 for like 1 hour per hour or whatever. And you can just do whatever, watch YouTube, do any work you want to do at the PC room, or just play games, download games on your Steam account, just go to town as long as you want. And of course, you can order food or snacks. So the food and snacks can vary depending on where you go to, where you're at. So depending on what town, city, what PC cafe you go to.
What's the strangest food that you ate in South Korea so far?
Strangest food. I think it was this. Was it Yuko? It was this raw beef with squid. Now I'm not afraid. I'm a big believer when it comes to food. I'll try anything once. So I'm not afraid to try anything once. Yeah, because one of my good friends, a guy who I met from playing Super Smash Bros. At a fighting game cafe here in Seoul. He showed me this market and showed me the restaurant too. I thought it was not bad, but it's not gonna be something like okay, it's top 10 recommendation unless you're into that. Unless you're a adventurous eater, But I kind of want to start back though, because you said about the whole Christian thing. Now, for those who don't know, also South Korea does have a Christian culture, but I would not advise anybody to go to church. If you're Christian, do not go to church. Do not go to a church in South Korea. I would not advise it. Mainly, because South Korea is a massive, massive cult problem.
What do you
church,
mean?
like actually like cults, like like Jim Jones, like Christian X, Waco, Texas, like S type of cults.
In Korea, it's a lot of them.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I
I
would.
wouldn't know that.
Hey, I mean we're not religious, but I would even tell every Christian I know stay away from these churches. It's not worth the risk because so many times anybody who lives in Korea, they'll tell you like cults are a big problem. Even the Korean government knows they have a massive problem with these cults
Really?
because you think, oh, this one Korean person, they're very nice to talk to you, trying to befriend you, right? But they could be a member of a cult,
And trying to
and you
get
never
you.
even know it.
I would never think that. I would never think that. It's so many different things that you think about when you think about different countries. Like
Yeah.
I wonder if like do they got beaches just like America? Do you got
Oh yeah. Gorgeous.
they got theme parks just like America? They
Yep.
got gas stations, grocery stores. Like is overall your experience in Korea or your life in Korea, do you think it's like drastically different than America, or do you think it would be it's somewhat similar to living in America?
Somewhat. One big difference is there's lots of public transportation, so I don't have to travel. I don't need to if I don't want to. I don't need a car to travel in here if I don't want one, right? Or if say like one benefit I do like about living in a walkable city is that if I need milk or just need hey, need to go to the nearby corner store to pick up some meat or eggs, right? I can just walk there. I don't need to get in my car, drive 5 minutes to the nearest Dollar General to just get some milk and eggs.
Housing. So when you go
Yeah.
to South Korea and you go through a neighborhood,
Mm,
is it front yards, backyards? You said a lot of the houses, especially older houses, you being 6'7", you have a
yeah.
problem like getting into because you got to duck through doors and stuff. So
Yeah.
how would the neighborhood look like in South Korea?
Well, most of them, because Korea's a small nation, it's going to be you're going to find mostly apartments and flats everywhere you go.
Mm.
Now, in some of the medium size, especially in the smaller cities, you're going to find some actual custom made houses. But those of you who got the money to pay for the building for the houses, of course, you pay for the plot, the land to build those houses. But a lot of times you're going to live in apartments. Most people live in apartments. So basically, people will invest into apartments like they would a house. So it's kind of seen as an investment to buy and sell apartment buildings or apartment floors, really.
Okay.
To yeah, you can actually get a loan to get an apartment. Well, Koreans can. For foreigners, not so much, I believe.
Okay. So it's more like
So
a condo
ain't
type
no
situation then?
Yeah, sort of, kind of, sort of.
Okay.
so you don't see neighborhoods with grass like front yard and kids
No,
playing
not
in the
really.
yard.
No, unless you're uh the only time I might see that is like because I live in Seoul, I live in the countryside. So unless I go out a little bit and I see like grandma's house with some rice fields, some vegetables being out on the outside, then no, you won't really see that in the big cities. It's mostly gonna be straight up apartments most of the time.
Okay.
Jeez. Yeah, see, I wouldn't
That's
know
by
that.
design because Korea's geography is mountainous. The terrain is very mountainous, so everywhere you go, it's gonna be hills and mountains everywhere. So there's not a whole lot of land to build, houses on.
Where can people get a hold of you on the internet? Do you have a website or do you just go on the gram or YouTube, your TikTok,
Yeah,
any
so
of those?
I'm on both TikTok and Instagram at the Blurred Explorer. So you can find me on there. So be on the lookout for sometime next year. My next book, The Black Traveler's Guide to South Korea. It's going to come out next year.
The Black Traveler's Guide to South Korea by Phil, the Blurred
Yeah,
Explorer. Man, we
yeah, it's come
appreciate you
out
coming
next year.
on.
Yeah,
We
thank you for having
appreciate
me
you
on.
telling us a little bit about your story, man. We gotta have you back when you got some more time. I know it's a
Yeah, yeah,
big time difference. I know you're trying to get back home after you had a nice, enjoyable weekend. So I
yeah.
definitely.
That's
Oh,
the
let me
plan.
ask you a question. In
Sure.
Korea, are the weekends 2 days as well? So you
Yes,
work
it's 2 days.
5 days, you get 2 days off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Week this weekend it was Buddha's birthday. It's a national holiday, Buddha's birthday. So it's a national holiday. So we got the Monday off today, Korea time. So I'm off today. So I'm heading back home today.
It's Buddha's birthday today.
Yeah.
Like
No,
the religious
Saturday,
leader Buddha.
28th, May 28th. It was Buddha's birthday. It was a national holiday.
Oh,
No,
see,
27th, excuse me. May
27th.
27th, Buddha's birthday.
I never knew that. I never knew May's. I never knew it was a national holiday, but I didn't know Buddha even had a birthday. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Buddha, yeah. He's my dude.
crazy. That's my daughter nickname,
Wow.
Buddha. That's what I call my daughter. All right, man. Thank you so much, Blurty
Thank you.
Sport, for joining us today, Phil, and sharing your story.
You let me when I needed you the most. You let me when I was down in that cell, hoping for a better. And I never thought, girl, that you would leave. Girl, you so this son that girl fooling me. And that you with girl not cool as me. Girl, I'm on that shit like who would see. When you broke that and I broke down, I guess life not could be easy. And you showed that girl and I showed out.